Welcome to an episode of Full Circle. I'm your host, Chad, Cheddar Caveman, on lots and lots of social media. Today, what I want to talk about is the 2018 ATC, which just wrapped up over this past weekend, within the time frame of when this episode is dropping. Which this is there was a different episode on Monday, so this will probably go out only 2 days after that. I just wanted to give a real quick rundown of how the tournament went for me, for my team, a little bit for my team that they didn't play circles, so I'm going to focus on my games mostly, and just the event in general. So the event in general was great. Big thank you to Travis, Nathan, and Dan for all they did to organize the event, especially Travis and Nathan, who were on hand that day, and of course to Rick and David for the software help. They work on what is the pairing software Rick works on, and David works on Conflict Chamber. So big shout out to those guys. A lot of hard work went into making it a really fun event for myself and for a lot of other people. So it's definitely appreciated. Also big shout out to my team. They were the ones that made it a lot of fun. Chris, Francesc, Dan, and Felix. It's not really the fun of team events is, regardless of how you do, is being able to go with a bunch of people that you like playing games with, and like sharing results and things and how the rounds go, and whether that's at the most competitive level or the most casual of levels. So anyways, our team went 3-2, so we were above average there. We were, I don't know, let's say there were 32 teams. We were like 12 or 13 out of everybody, something like that. I think I'd have to go back and check. It's somewhere in there. I went 5-0, so I was really happy with my results and how things played through. The event, in case you didn't know, the event took place over 2 days. There was 3 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday. Congratulations. Should have mentioned this before I got into it, but congratulations to, I believe it was Top of 2 Grab a Brew for winning and qualifying to go to the WTC in what was an incredibly tight series against Team Canada. Several of the games came down to some very close situations, so that could have definitely gone either way. So very competitive, great event. Yeah. And then, so I'm not going to go full on like battle report style here on all of my matchups. I'm just going to kind of high level go through them, since there's 5, and if I don't, this episode could be a bajillion hours long. And then, some of the findings that I have here will also probably translate into some of the information in other episodes. I may reference back to some matchups or something like that. But for this one, I just want to kind of go over how my games went, some highlights, perhaps things like that, learnings, etc. Yeah. So round 1, let me see. Round 1 we played against, I believe the team was called the Malcontents. This is a team led by Matt Lust and crew. I was gonna say out of Minnesota. Matt's out of Minnesota, but actually the team is kind of from all over the place. So a lot of them I think know each other from various conventions. Anyways, they were the only team that off the top of my head that I know that actually had double circle in their comp. So they had in their 5. So they had 2 circle. They had Grimkin, Kador, and I forget the 5th one, maybe Legion. I don't have the list up in front of me. So anyways, the way the pairings worked out, I actually feel like I mispaired this round because I could have set it up where their Grimkin player was absolutely getting either myself or our Legion player, who had Abby 2, and I did that for our team, unfortunately, and I put our Minions player into Grimkin, who I thought had played into them some, and then he said after the fact that he had not. So that was a mistake on my part. But the way it played out, I ended up getting paired up against Rich, who was also a circle player. He had Kruger 2 and Balder 2. This was actually the one matchup out of their 5 that I was the most concerned about, primarily because Baldur 2 is not really a great match for me either way. Armor 23 is starting to get to the point where Una's not cracking that kind of armor. With things that are over 20 hit points, and certainly not the 56 or 8, whatever it is, hit point Woldrath. And Kruger's list sort of has a similar problem. I don't have, like, I don't have synergy Wold Guardians and things like that. The type of serious armor cracking that dealing with that list needs. So I was a little concerned going into that matchup. And he also had Kruger 2, and I had Kruger 2, so I felt like the odds of him playing Kruger 2 and risking the mirror match were low. I felt like he was going to know that Baldur was the better drop there, just because the Woldrath has a lot of strength into that matchup. So I was right, he did drop the Woldrath. We were playing in standoff, so that's the one with the 2 circles and the 2 rectangles with the objectives in them. And when I looked at what the scenario was, I opted to go with Una 2, and the reason here is I did mention just now how she doesn't quite crack the armor, but she does crack armor better, in my opinion, than the other list. And also what she does is provides me the ability to really take a lot of the side of the table. And his really only piece that can threaten that far out without him really risking where his battle group is positioned is the Celestial Fulcrum and his Sentry Stones, which I think he has in the list. No, I'm sorry, he did not have Sentry Stones in the list. I'm getting this mixed up with a different game. So with that being, but the Black-clad solos can, so especially the Wayfarers. So with that being the case, I need to play a little bit cagey with where I put my Wolf Riders for sure. But if I can keep the Fulcrum's damage sort of at a minimum, and I can start putting it in a situation where I can score the outside zones as well as mine, and I have more models that I'm able to contest his zone with than he has mine, especially once I kill really anything, right? Like, his list is very low model count, so the more stuff he loses, the worse it is for him. I have more higher model count, less critical pieces than he does. So with that in mind, I do just that. I spread way out with my Wolf Riders, which is pretty common for that list to do. And I'm able to play that game, basically. He kind of is a little too timid. I won the die roll. He was a little too timid on the approach, I would say. And that combination of things basically led to me being in the driver's seat on the scenario, which led him to expose. But I was losing a little bit of attrition because Woldrath got into my Griffins. I hadn't feeded yet, though. And he put Baldur in an unfortunate spot where I was able to get 2 Griffins on him, and as well as some shots. I was able to get a free charge, shots from Una, and 2 fully loaded Griffins. So that was it. He was camping too, basically. He tried to use a wall to choke off where I could land, but it wasn't enough, basically. So I get Baldur 2 on Assassination. Round 2, I get paired into. And by the way, I may forget a couple of the names because I didn't. My phone actually doesn't have any battery, and I have all the games recorded there. But all of my opponents were very great. Great opponents to play against. Everybody was very clean, very very classy, very friendly to play with, and I really appreciate that. That's something in one of these events that I definitely think is key, and it's something I really like about the community. I know we get sometimes we hear some negativity about that, but I think it's still most of the time a very positive game. So anyways, round 2, I am not recalling who my opponent's I'm not recalling my opponent's name offhand. He was a Haley 3. He had Haley. I believe he had Haley 3, Nemo 3, and since I have Kruger 2, I know for a fact with that being the we'll get into this. I'm gonna have another episode to talk more about this. But when your Signar, when you have Kruger 2, if they know what Kruger 2 does, they're not going to drop Nemo 3. When they have Haley 3, the number of guns makes Kruger 2 still the better option to play there. So I knew 100% I was playing Kruger 2. I did, and this was in Breakdown, or no, Spread the Net. That's the name of this one. So this is the one with the circle, rectangles, flags, and he actually, I think he won the die roll, or I won, and I chose side anyways, just to set me in a position where I was going to be the first one scoring, and that worked out quite well for me, just based on kind of how he positioned. He sort of towed some stuff into the circle. He put his one of his ogres on his flag. He did not. Sorry, I'm trying to remember to not get my games mixed up. He did have a Firefly in his Haley 3, which is a bit unusual, but he recognized that it wasn't going to be terribly effective, and he sent it over in the direction of the other. No, he didn't do that yet. It was in his rectangle of zone. But the one thing the one unfortunate thing that did happen was he was able to use one of his trench crew. What is the name of that unit? Sorry. Express teams, and he rolled boxcars and killed one of my shifting stones. And the funny thing about that is it probably made me play do something better than I would have done, because since that unit was broken, I just sent it towards his rectangle zone to contest, and that was probably the best use. Like, that was a fantastic use of that unit that game. So anyways, Wayfarer goes to my flag. Shifting stones are making their way to that zone. Most of the bulk of my stuff is going into the circle. The Fulcrum sitting in the other rectangle pretty timidly back, because it's pretty hard for Kruger to turn off all of the range 14 guns just because of how positioning works. And on turn 2, I'm able to basically kill key models that I need to. He actually just runs his trenchers to try to jam me a little bit, because I think he felt like the cloud wall wasn't going to be successful. So he runs his trenchers. He puts like I said, the guy on the flag. I don't think he yet was contesting my flag, so I think he was conceding that we would trade points there, but that's not how that worked out actually. So I'm able to contest his zone with a shifting stone. I'm able to score my flag. I feat as well as TK his ogre off of the flag, and then clear out my rectangle. So I scored 3 points to his 0. I couldn't get anything on his flag. He's got to come back pretty slowly, and the situation works out that he basically can't get anybody to my rectangle, but he can score some points, and I'm just able to ride that to a scenario victory. So that scenario is very good for Kruger 2. That matchup's very good for Kruger 2. So that worked out pretty well in the pairing process. Team went 4-1 that round. I believe we went 4-1 that round. And I felt like most of the pairings I matched up pretty well that time. Let's see. Round 3, we get what was their team name? This is one of the Wisconsin teams. A lot of guys that I've played at local stuff. Brian Kerr's team, and the way the matchups go out, I am able to play against Davis, who is a player who I've had a couple games where he has successfully taken advantage of my either greed or poor play and won the game, and it was great for him. And his team was joking a lot about him getting the hat trick on me, and I had no intention of letting that happen. If you watch my episode a little while back on what not to do in a game, and I talked about a Grimkin game that I could have won, but didn't because I got a little too far ahead of myself. This was that player, so I was glad to get another game in on him, to just for myself, to give myself another chance to win. So he had the same pair. I think we both had essentially the same pairings we had a few weeks back in December. And that was, so I had, Una 2 and Kruger 2, of course. He had Old Witch 3 and Dreamer. The last time we played Dreamer and Una 2, and I guess he was not a fan of how that played out. So I again went with Una because I was thinking he might again go Dreamer. This is breakdown, so this is dumbbell, circles, rectangle, and center. This is a good scenario also for Una because again we've got the circles that are out wide, and the Wolf Riders really like going into those. So if he plays Dreamer, I feel like, especially after the last game, that I'm very confident in my Una list into. I just have to play very smart. If he plays Old Witch, I think the game's a little bit more even because he's got a bunch of guns, basically. But still very playable as long as I play pretty carefully. So that's essentially how the game plays out. I win the die roll, so he has to play back pretty far. I think that's a pretty good, that gave me a pretty big advantage in that game. Because, in fact, I had to be careful not to run too far because he could actually shoot me on the bottom of one if my Wolf Riders went too far, and I definitely don't want that. So he's having to stay pretty far back on his turn one, or at least that's how he feels he needs to play it. I think I still accidentally gave him one shot on one of the Wolf Riders that I didn't need to. He ambushes his crows, his murder crows, so I have to be wary of that. So my Wolf Riders are a little farther inside than they normally are. But nonetheless, he does that. On my turn, I'm able to Chain Lightning, kill a few with my Shaman. Wolf Riders kill. So the downside here is he's able to cast Windstorm and make my Wolf Riders really only get their throws when they actually get the assault and are in melee. Range 2, not really. Kind of not really a range attack even. He engages some on the left, I think, with a Gorehound, so I kill that. Did I kill his Rattler yet? Anyways, I make some attacks. He comes into the zones on his turn to make sure I'm not scoring. Murder Crows come out. I think I maybe lose one Wolf Rider to that because I was playing carefully. Let's see. Did the Murder Crows come into the zone at that time? At some point, Murder Crows come in on the... Murder Crows did. Hollow Men come in on the right. Hollow Men are coming up on the left. I'm able to clear all 3 zones. All 3 zones. Score 3. Then he puts his whole unit of... I think that's what happens. Then he puts the whole unit of Hollow Men that are left and stuff into the zone. And my Tharn Ravager White Mane kills all of them by himself. I actually put Hand of Fate on him even to make sure. I keep slowly just contesting on the zone on the left then because I actually got whittled down. My Wolf Riders got whittled down a little farther there. But anyways, I basically just attrition my way to a scenario victory in that case. That's day 1. It goes well for me, 3-0. I was happy. Our team was 2-1 at that point, so that was quite good. Next day we get one of the other Madison teams. This was Pegasus Prime, and this is a matchup that I also know I don't want any part of because I haven't. I played against it and it went very poorly for me, even though I sort of pulled a win out of my ass. But I know it's bad for me, and I have not spent the time to figure out what exactly it is that I need to do to make sure that I can play into it. So I'm only really trying to dodge. That's the one particular matchup I'm trying to dodge. The way that plays out, I get their Mosar player, their Circle player who has Mosar and Bradigus. He actually played Bradigus. So I'm again having to be pretty careful. So because with his feat, he does actually out-threaten me, but it is a little bit linear because of how the feat works. He has 4 Wardens, and then 2 Whites and 2 Wold Watchers. This game goes pretty closely. I'm able to keep him real far back. I probably moved up just a smidge too far after that turn even because he was able to get a little bit. But with Elusive, Wolf Riders, and so forth, he does have Sentry Stun, so one of the big things I'm having to do because if I'm not careful and he's decently lucky, he can actually kill a few too many Wolf Riders. So, you know, I make sure to focus on those early. Then I'm just focusing on getting zones cleared. This one is Outlast or Outflank, whatever it's called now. 2 circles, 2 flags. There's also a big burning earth in the middle, so my griffins don't care nearly as much as his stuff does. So that's good for me. Anyways, as it is, he comes into me with a bunch of his battle group on the feet. I'm basically able to kill either 2 or 3 of the Wold Wardens that turn. One of the and the Wold Whites, one of the Wold Whites, I think, between all my activations. And at that point, I'm pretty much in a place on attrition where I feel okay. It doesn't go quite as well as I'd like. He does sort of come back a little bit, but I pretty much don't leave the driver's seat at that point. Bradigus has to stay pretty far back and kind of get involved in an awkward way, and eventually I cascade that to a scenario win. So 4-0 at this point. The last round, we go into a team for the battle-driven team. So they have a podcast. Feel free to, I think they're the Muse Network, so check them out there. I get paired. The way it works out is their captain, Riker, basically jumps on the grenade that is my list pair, because it's kind of bad for both of his lists. He's got Haley 2 out of theme. Really unique list. I definitely recommend take a look at it on Conflict Chamber. I think the brick house tech that he has is quite interesting, and most people won't see it coming. So so there's that, and then he's got Siege 1. I figure he could play either list. Either way, I want to play Kruger. He has a lot of lightning guns between the lists and things like that. So TK also stops a lot of what Brickhouse wants to do, and so forth. So I win the die roll. I opt to go second because one of the so this is Recon 2, and one of the sides has a flag that is like tucked in behind a forest in like the safest position ever. So I want that spot. And going second with Kruger is usually fine because of my feet and propensity for scoring zones. So he moves up pretty aggressively. He recognizes his Fireflies are basically useless, so they move up even more. Windstorm makes him move things up farther than he'd like to, so the Hurricane with Arcane Shield is up quite a ways. I actually got shots on it even on the bottom one. Did a little damage. He does okay at attrition. His dice don't really help. I have some terrible dice on his Hurricane, but I do manage to kill it after putting all of the... What did it end up taking? It was like all of the Woldweird shots that I had, all of the... a Gallows, Megalith charging it for free, a Warden charging it for free, and the Fulcrum shooting it with the Fireball gun, I think, is... Like, it took all of that to kill it, because Megalith rolled Snake Eyes twice on attack rolls. So, but then I kill it, and I do feat, and that puts me in a position where I score 1, he scores 0, and I've actually pushed a bunch of his jacks, like, way out of his control area, which is good for me. He actually, I don't end up contesting the rectangle on my right as hard as I should, so he's able to score that the next turn. He moves Siege sort of more centrally to get people back in formation. He contests the flag again. He moves the Squire into the flag. So he actually, and he kills the objective because of how things work out. So he's actually up 1 control point on me at that point, or 2, I think. Yeah, he was 3-1. And then, however, because of how that played out, Siege defeated. He had spent some focus boosting and whatnot. He's camping 4, I believe, though. And where he's sitting, he's in range for me to shoot with the Fulcrum, and I'm gonna be able to, like, he put his mechanics in the way, but if I can clear the mechanics out, I can get charges on him from Megalith and probably a Wold Warden, as well as Kruger can shoot him, as well as the Fulcrum can shoot him. I think that might have been it. Maybe a Woldweird could shoot him too. I may have used that to clear the dudes out. So I start with the Fulcrum, as I often do when I'm doing this, and I do hit the stationary, boosted, needing an 8. I think I rolled like 4, 4, 5. What's in my brain anyways. And, yeah, so there's a stationary Siege camping his focus, so that means that I boost the POW 15. He shield guards that with Triumph. Yeah, Triumph. I boost the POW 14 into him, the lightning, or boost the damage POW 14 into him. Kruger then goes and puts 3 boosted POW 12s into him, and then so he's had to spend a few focus in here. Then we get Megalith in there. Do I get a free charge? I did not get the free charge because I wasn't able to get the other Wayfarer over there. So no free charge, but Megalith charges, gets in there, and Megalith kills him. So, and if that hadn't played out, oh, I had to use a Lightning Storm to clear Megalith off. Anyways, if that doesn't play out, I have to sort of get a little bit cagey with where the other Warden could go because of Triumph's positioning being a bit problematic. But I think if need be, I still had that. So I'm able to win that game. We had some really wonky dice throughout that game. Dan was a great opponent, though. His team was definitely a bunch of classy guys as well. So a lot of fun. And that was basically my tournament. So, you know, like I said, a lot of fun games. Some pretty quick overviews. You know, I actually went even a little bit more into the games than I thought I would, but that's fine. Great event. I'm looking forward to doing it again next year. Something I definitely feel like, having seen this event, that I need to get practice is going to be, we oddly played no cricks, which I feel okay into, but, you know, it was the most I played faction, I think, so it was sort of odd to not play against it. And then Scorn also was something I feel like I just need reps against. I think I can play it, but I need to really feel out how. So I think Scorn's going to be on the rise. I think Trolls are going to be on the rise out of this event. Grunkin did very well, so I think we'll keep seeing them, which I'm fine with. I still need to probably sit down and put some more time into some of my Khador games. They've kind of been the thing I've been not wanting to deal with for a little while, and since this is a team event, I felt like it was better for me to focus on other matchups and avoid that one for now. But outside of team event, I won't be able to keep doing that, of course. So, any case, that's going to be all for this particular episode. There's going to be a lot of findings and fallout, I think, from this event for the next little bit that's going to inform some of these things, but I just want to go over kind of how things went, talk about how awesome the event is, and let you guys all know how it went. So, anyways, as always, if you enjoyed what you see, click the subscribe button. That'll help you see whenever new episodes are coming, and you know, feel free to give us a thumbs up, like, throw it out on Twitter, Facebook, wherever. Also, before this episode dropped, there should have been another episode talking about a Discord server that started and a Facebook group, so feel free to check those out if you want to have some conversation about this episode and have it not be on YouTube. I'm going to start using those. I'll try to keep the Discord link in my show notes. And anyways, yeah, thanks for watching.